Welcome into Health Monday. We're joined by Jared and Jacob from Marble City Pharmacy on this a Monday morning. Gentlemen, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to have you with us. We had a commercial prior to this talking about giving away 2 turkeys, and here's, well, anyway.
And here we are.
Anyway. Something that is not often talked about at the lunch table is tick-borne illnesses. What is tick-borne illnesses?
You know, if we did a survey of our audience to see what we were going to talk about today, I don't think tick-borne illnesses would have come in first place. Tick-borne illnesses are what they sound like. They're bacterial infections that come from tick bites. The 2 ones that we mainly talk about are Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever. I think in the United States, Lyme disease is the most common tick-borne illness, but in our area of the country, in Alabama, Rocky Mountain spotted fever is somewhere around 10 times more likely to be what you get from a tick than Lyme disease. But yeah, these are bacterial infections that come from tick bites.
Now, I'm kind of putting myself in the audience place this morning. Tick bites, ticks usually attack dogs and stuff, don't they?
Ticks attack any living thing they can get on.
Oh.
And so we think of them as we find them on our dogs because our dogs are most often outside. But no, they take any living thing they can get their hands on and latch on. They're parasites. They're biting and sucking blood on anything they can get it from.
They're kind of like miniature vampires.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We just came through Halloween, so
Yeah.
I guess that will work. Do we have a problem with that in our area?
Vampires? Not that I know of.
No. I could throw this pen at him.
This has already gone off the rail. Okay.
Yeah. Let's reel it back in a little bit.
Well, we do, and we're probably going out of turn here, but if you think about people who...
Well, I'm reading these notes. I can't tell what's in turn and what's not.
People who live or work in grassy, wooded areas, people who spend a lot of time in the woods. You're talking about, it's hunting season now, right? Or close to it, or somewhere close to it. People who hunt, right, are more at risk. People whose grass has grown up and they don't keep it cut, right? So ticks like these kind of areas. And then people who've got pets, like we just talked about. A lot of times your dog or other pet will come and get a tick and bring it back to you, and then that's how you get a hold of it.
How do you know without just seeing it if there's a problem?
Good question. In the ideal sense, you would eventually find the tick on you and know to start dealing with it. But if you don't, the signs and symptoms of issues arising they're slightly different for Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever, but mostly similar. If it's Lyme disease, you develop a very characteristic rash. It looks exactly like you're advertising for the store Target. It's a bullseye rash. And when you say that, it's not kind of looking like a bullseye. It looks exactly like a bullseye. Big red circle, small red circle, dot right in the middle of it. Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which is more common here, is more of a scab type rash in the spot. But what you develop when you develop either of these diseases is that rash and headaches, body aches, fever, chill type symptoms. And that's how you know, hey, I've come into contact with something, I'm sick, I need to figure out what's wrong with me. If you never found the tick, you know to start seeking help at that point.
Can, Jared, this turn into a serious problem?
It can turn into a serious problem. I don't think we said this yet, so let me back up and say this. A very small percentage of tick bites turn into one of these bacterial infections that can end up being serious. So generally you don't get one of these unless the tick has bitten you and been on you for 36 or more hours, okay? So a lot of us have been bitten by ticks, right? Our family lived close to the woods when we were little. Jacob and I have found numerous ticks on us in our lives, especially as kids. So these things happen. If you get the tick in a reasonable amount of time, a lot of times these infections don't occur. To answer the question, yes, they can definitely end up being serious if you don't seek treatment, and we'll get to that in just a minute, but if you don't seek treatment to kill the bacterial infection, then yes, eventually they can lead to serious problems that are very bad joint problems, such as arthritis, a serious kind of arthritis. They can lead to heart problems, sometimes inflammation of the heart or irregular heartbeat, and they can lead to very serious neurological problems. Sometimes you see people with a kind of a slurred speech. They have trouble thinking or getting their thoughts, and so in fact, we've got some patients at work who've experienced this, and so yes, if you do not get this treated, it can most definitely turn serious.
And this is not in the notes here, but let me just throw this out here.
Here we go.
Are these bites easily spotted?
The bites themselves, not so much. I mean, anybody that's had a tick on them and pulled it off can tell you once you get rid of the tick, it's a tiny, tiny little spot, almost invisible. So if the tick comes off naturally without you actually removing it, there's a good chance you are not going to see it. However, people don't understand, hey, what do I do? Ticks don't fall off a lot. If they've latched on enough that you have a chance of possibly getting one of these serious diseases, it didn't just fall off. You had to get the tweezers and get it off. So in other words, people aren't getting these diseases without knowing that they were exposed and have a risk, because a tick that comes off that easily wasn't on long enough to ever get to this point. And so if you didn't pull a tick off with tweezers, you don't have one of these diseases.
You know, a lot of older Americans, they're pro-animal. They love their dogs, they love their cats, and I guess they would be susceptible to something like this, right?
Oh yeah, sure. So if you have a pet that's outside at all, that simple fact is they can bring it to you. There's no doubt. When you start to talk about how to prevent this, I mean, this won't be popular, but don't have pets. That's one.
You just left a lot of people out right there.
Right. Outside of not having pets, which I understand you guys don't want to get rid of your pets to prevent tick bites. I obviously understand that. When we're talking about prevention, covering up when you're outside. If you're going for a walk in the woods, if you're going hunting, you want to make sure that you're covered up. Insect repellents can actually work if they have a certain percent of DEET or DEET in them. Can work against preventing tick bites, right? Inspecting yourself once you've been outside. When we used to play in the woods at times, our mom or dad would inspect us to make sure that we don't have a tick bite somewhere that we can't see. Getting in the shower and washing yourself really good after you've been in a grassy, woody area. Washing your pet, taking your clothes and making sure that they're washed or dried in hot water or in heat, because the heat will kill those ticks. So there are things you can do after you've been in a place that's more likely to expose you to a tick to keep you from getting a bite, and then obviously keep you from getting infected.
Yeah, a lot of leaves falling off the trees now, a lot of kids outside playing, and parents and grandparents out with them, and I'm assuming this would be a way to contract the tick bites as well. So just say that I find a tick on my arm or on my leg. What do you do then?
Very good. It's a stepwise process. Step one is the obvious one: remove the tick. But it's not as simple as it sounds. You have to do it the right way. What we mean by that is it's common instinct to want to grab the tweezers, pinch that sucker as hard as you can, and yank. Well, if you pinch too hard, you rip off the back half of the tick and the front half's still there, making you more likely to end up with an infection later. So again, you do use tweezers, but you have to get a firm but not too firm grip on that thing. You don't want to crush it and rip the back half off. You've got to slowly work it out so that you do remove the whole tick from yourself. That's step one: remove the tick, but do it the right way. Step two is it's a waiting game, and you have to be very watchful. These signs and symptoms of these diseases we're talking about today, the serious ones, usually don't occur for at least 3 or 4 days and can be up to a month. And so if you find a tick on yourself and you remove it the right way, you need to be aware for the next 30 days. Look for rashes, look for scab type spots over that spot, because that would be the Rocky Mountain Spotted Fever sign. Headaches, body aches, arthralgias, things like that to be aware of. Just look for these signs, and if you see them, then you approach your physician, because as we'll get to the treatments in a minute, they do have to come through a physician.
Speaking of treatments, what are the treatments for tick bite?
Well, the number one treatment, if any of you guys have had either Lyme disease or Rocky Mountain Spotted Fever, you probably remember the name of the medicine. The number one is oral doxycycline, right? There are other antibiotics that can be used in young kids or people that are not candidates for doxycycline for whatever reason. So, but beginning with oral antibiotics, if the disease, if the bacterial infection has progressed to a certain place, you may end up having to have IV antibiotics. That would be a situation, of course, course, where you would be in the hospital. But yes, seeing your physician, getting prescribed a course of usually 10 to 14 days of doxycycline or some other antibiotic that will work against these particular types of bacteria is the way to go.
This Rocky Mount fever that you're talking about, I've heard of that. I've heard of Lyme disease, but the Rocky Mount fever sounds like it can be really, really serious at times.
Well, not to belabor too long on personal stories here, but our dad developed this. This is 20 years ago, so my details will be hazy, but he should know better. He found the tick on himself, he removed the tick, and didn't think anything else about it. A week or two later, he's got a rash. Didn't think anything about it, just thought he'd come into contact with something. A week or two later, developed really bad headaches. Didn't think anything about it, just thought he was under stress or something. And then a few weeks after that, it got far enough that he developed a serious heart problem. They thought it was a heart attack. Airlifted him. He was at UAB, I think, at the time. Airlifted him thinking he was having serious heart problems. Well, and he was, but it wasn't a heart-related issue. It was from his tick bite. He had Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Once they figured it out, took him a while. Once they figured out what it was, because he didn't think to relate it to the tick when he's talking to the doctor, took him a while to figure out what was wrong with him. They got him treated and he's perfectly fine, but it could have had long-term neurological side effects. He just got very fortunate that it did not.
Can the tick really embed itself into an individual?
You guys have had ticks, know this. The longer they're there, the deeper they embed, and it becomes more difficult. That's why, as Jacob said, you have to get the tweezers and you have to get down and get the head and the mouth, and you have to get those things out, because if you just get the body, that thing will embed deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah.
Wow. Appreciate you guys coming this morning, and we're shifting gears just a little bit here, getting ready for the holidays, and the gift shop is good to go at Marble City Pharmacy.
It's packed with good stuff. It's I don't even know what's up there right now because Teresa's been changing everything over, but she's got it ready. The Christmas stuff is out. I think open house was this past weekend, so we've had a lot of traffic in and out. But yeah, gifts for everybody on your list, no doubt.
And two, this is not in my notes, but I thought about this a couple of days ago. With gasoline prices high, and they look like they're going higher, you guys offer a service, or you did offer a service, I'm assuming you still do, with delivery service.
We do still have a delivery vehicle. We have a delivery driver, and so within city limits, if you need to not get out for whatever reason, and you want to use us, give us a call. We can get your medicine delivered to you. Absolutely.
Okay, and one more note before we go. It's flu season, and flu shots are available at Marble City Pharmacy?
Yeah, flu shots all day, every day. COVID boosters, or first or second ones if you haven't had them yet, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? So that has to be kept in the freezer. It's a little more fragile, some protections around it. Flu shots all day, every day. COVID boosters Tuesdays and Thursdays.
All right, thank you both for joining us this morning. Jared and Jacob from Marble City Pharmacy. Our guests this morning.